What's up, guys? Welcome back. Special Droid Life show today. This is our super crazy late CES 2016 recap show. So, not technically, at least to us, episode 100. Actually, I think we're probably over 100 episodes, but we've done all these special episodes in there. Anyways, it's not episode 100. This is just a special CES sort of recap. So, it's one of those things. It's still a huge electronic show. We want to just kind of share our sort of week that was, which was last week at CES 2016, and sort of let you guys in on kind of what we do, our approach to it, talk about the stories that we found that were big, some of which are still kind of going on today even, and just, share like little unique things that happened here and there. So anyways, yeah, we're back from CES, which is in Las Vegas every year, basically the second week, or sort of, it's kind of a mix of first, second week. How would you describe the timing of CES? The second week, first week?
It's like week and a half into January.
Yeah,
it's sort of
it's
been changing, right? So
yeah, it's kind of adjust. And this year it really adjusted a day later than normal because New Year's Day like backed up to a weekend and something like that. So anyways, second week essentially of every January, we head off to Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show, which I don't believe wants to be called the Consumer Electronics Show. I think they're officially just CES. And so we do that. And this was our sixth year. I think we counted it out. This is our sixth year in a row we've been there, which shows you how long Droid Life has been in existence. So we did it again. CES in the last 3 or 4 years hasn't exactly been the most mobile or Android focused consumer electronics show, but it's still huge. Like some 170,000 or so people show up to this thing every single year still. And it's a big deal. I mean, it's just not for us because it's not Android stuff, but in terms of electronics, it's a big deal. There's autos there now with all of their new tech and infotainment systems and electric cars and all that stuff. There's TVs everywhere still. There's just all sorts of other stuff. Like there was hoverboards everywhere this year, like whatever the hot new tech is. There's a whole section for wearables. CES is one of those things that's hard to explain, like the grand scale of it. It is massive, and it just keeps every year just keeps spreading out beyond the Las Vegas Convention Center into like other hotels and all these other private events and satellite things, and it's kind of crazy. So anyways, we thought we'd start with talking our sort of timeline of how this all works. I'll try to make it as quickly as possible to get into actual fun stuff, but basically we got there on Monday. I think a lot of press actually got there like Saturday and Sunday, and they had pre-briefings and whatnot. We didn't do any of that stuff. We showed up Monday, grabbed our badges, and there was actually a press event that evening called CES Unveiled that always kicks off the show for press. And it's basically like a time to get your badge and check out a handful of usually really cheesy products that you're probably never going to buy. And so we actually skipped that this year. And so we went to dinner with my mom instead because she lives in Vegas now. So we did that. And then the next day, which is Tuesday, was official press day. They call it at CES. And especially, it's like a 10 to 12 hour day, I feel like, of 45-minute press events from all the big companies in the world. Samsung, LG, Ford did one this year. Sony, Huawei had probably the best of them all. Anyways, we sit through that all day. Well, at least we normally sit through that all day. This year, our approach to CS was a little bit different. We kind of knew there was nothing big coming out in terms of Android. So we skipped almost all of press day. And I hope you guys don't think that means we were just being lazy. We sort of looked at it as being crazy strategic and helping to let us write things up and not be stuck waiting in a conference hall lines for hours and hours. And it worked out great. We went to one press event that day. And I mean, I don't know if you guys could tell or not, but we didn't live blog much except Huawei's press event, which was the one we went to. Turns out it was the only one that really mattered. So we sort of feel like we struck a little media gold that day with our approach. And we also were able to not just completely destroy our bodies by sitting on floors and waiting for hours in lines and stuff like that before the actual show floor opened. So that night of press day is this thing called PepCom, and it's basically a showcase of all these products, and it's usually a big deal. We did hit that, and we saw a bunch of stuff. Did we see anything cool at PepCom though? There's just so much stuff going on that it's hard to really take it all in.
I mean, there was a lot of good stuff. We saw Weeboo stuff, Keurig Cold stuff. We saw the smart child seats.
There's smart car seats for baby infants and things like that.
I personally, we finally got hands-on with Nextbit's Robin smartphone, the cloud storage phone that Tech Media loves, and we spoke
Which
with
I
Scott
just don't
Croyle.
understand. But yeah.
Yep, Kellen doesn't understand. We spoke with Scott Croyle, who's the head designer for the Robin smartphone. So yeah, we talked a little bit to him, and there's a lot of companies. You know, they get like 200 companies in one
Yeah.
room. They put a beer in your hand and they say, "Go out, go forth and make connections." And it's always kind of a good time. It's a little overwhelming and sometimes a little crowded depending on when you get there. But overall,
Mhm.
PepCom is a pretty good spot.
Yeah, you can sort of hit a whole bunch of companies, and it's usually most of the important ones in a really short amount of time with a drink in your hand and chat with them in a more intimate setting than like at the actual show floor. So we did that. We talked to HTC, we talked to, is it LETV? I just want to say LeTV,
Le
LETV.
TV,
Yeah,
LETV.
they're the company that makes the first phone with a Snapdragon 820. So we talked to a whole bunch of people. Anyways, once we got done with that, then the next day the show floor opened and we ran over to the show floor and ran around and did the same thing on Thursday. And Friday we came home. So that was sort of how our schedule went. Let's sort of talk now about some of the stories then that came out of that. Should we start with the binge on drama?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if you haven't been following T-Mobile, obviously weeks ago now announced Binge On, which is their video streaming service, if you will. Basically, they downgrade video to 480p, which is DVD quality, and they let you stream it for free, basically, as long as it's from a service provider that's part of Binge On. Unfortunately, for everyone involved, that includes also throttling, I would say, all video services streamed across T-Mobile. And so, as long as Binge On is turned on, right? So, they caught some flack for it. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Initially, YouTube basically called them out via the Wall Street Journal and said, "Stop throttling our video because we're not a part of your program." And T-Mobile didn't really respond. And so then a couple days later, which was actually I think Monday when we were traveling to CES, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or the EFF, which is an organization that pretty much does good in the world of electronics. They stand up for not only like sites like ours if we were to get into legal trouble, but they stand up for consumers and they make sure like all the big bad companies aren't doing bad things. So they put out this report that says like T-Mobile, you're basically throttling everyone. This totally violates net neutrality rules and like all of this stuff, right? And so then John Ledger, I don't think it was that same day, right? It was the next day. So it was like Tuesday. Goes on this like video rant and basically dances around all of the actual like accusations and issues people had with Binge On. And then he said to the EFF, like, "Who the F are you?" As if he was like so much better and higher up than the EFF. And who are they to question him? And they must have some agenda. And I think he even said like Google had an agenda and like they just wanted to get in the news. And it's like, dude, this is Google. Like, Google would crush you if they wanted to, probably. Like, why are you saying like it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen? And he still didn't, address any of the people's concerns, which are T-Mobile turned it on without everyone saying that was okay, and then they're throttling everyone, not just the partners, and blah blah blah. Anyways, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, I'm sort of sick of talking about it, and the fact that I'm explaining it again is like taking my breath away. I'm just tired. Uh, Either way, John Ledger basically made an ass out of himself and said some really stupid shit. And yesterday, he once again like tried to explain Binge On, which we don't need an explanation of what Binge On is. We get it. And then he sort of like halfway apologized to the EFF because he caught a whole bunch of flack for his comments about them, which he should have. And so that's kind of where we sit today. Like he sort of issued this like half-hearted apology to them. It was clearly like this PR written open letter about Binge On. Like it, there was no cussing and things like that, which he typically does. I don't know. Like I just feel like he just needs to say like he's never going to say like we screwed up, but he just needs to like acknowledge that they need to make changes and not be such a douche about it. I don't know. We've talked a lot about this. After yesterday's thing, do you have anything else to kind of say about it? I know you're probably just as sick of it as I am.
Yeah, I think well throughout the whole time, I think I was talking to you about it, and I understand a bit of the outrage, the nerd outrage going on, but I think it's a little overblown, to say the least. The service, kind of like what John just keeps saying, it's totally pro net neutrality because the customer is in control. You can turn it off. But at the same time, anyone who doesn't know what's going on or who isn't up on snuff, they wouldn't have known that it was probably turned on in the first place. Yes, T-Mobile sends out notifications, but when I'm using a T-Mobile phone, I'm getting notifications constantly about whether it's like my data usage or if I'm paying my bill on time. So I just start ignoring all T-Mobile notifications. So if T-Mobile sent out a notification saying, hey, we're flipping a binge on thing, it's totally good. They probably never mention like you can turn it off. They probably just say, hey, you can, watch 3 times more video, Netflix for free, and it won't count towards your data bucket or whatever, like however they sent out those notifications. A lot of people probably were not in the know. For example, my girlfriend's on T-Mobile. She had no idea what binge on was. And so, I mean, clearly I think, and she is, up on her stuff because, well, she dates me. She has to be. So if she didn't know what binge on was, then clearly there might have been some type of breakdown in communication to the customers. So people were outraged. But again, if binge on negatively affects you and the way you use your smartphone and want to watch videos, YouTube, etc., then just turn it off. It's really not that big of a deal. Yes, T-Mobile probably screwed up when they just went ahead and turned it all on and just said it's on for everyone. You can turn it off if you want. They put the setting in under your profile and not under like account settings and stuff, which I thought was weird. But other than that, just turn it off if you don't like it. I bet T-Mobile will possibly rework it because clearly this has caused a little bit of drama. Not that John Legere doesn't like drama. I mean, he's all about the drama. He wants to be in the news. He wants his face out there. And the whole EFF thing, I thought that was really funny. People kind of like taking what he said out of context. I mean, whenever you say, who the F are you, you never literally are asking who the F are you. It's more of just like a who do you think you are type of deal. But of course, everyone.
Yeah, some people were like, "Oh, John Legere doesn't know who the EFF is." It's like, no, he knows who the EFF is.
Of course he does. So I'm sure John has an entire team around him when he's doing this type of stuff. So yeah, it is what it is. I don't think it's really negatively affecting anyone. It's good for people who want to watch videos on their mobile connection who say they don't have access to Wi-Fi 24/7. But if you don't like it, just turn it off. So, what else can you say, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like we just wrote a post, I think, after everyone, we kind of joked about everyone had a hot take about it because everyone was just sounding off on everything. And instead of doing that, we just kind of put up like instructions on how to turn it off so that you can just like ignore it and move on with the world. I think I have 2 problems with it. Well, I mean, I have like some solution options and things like that, but I have 2 problems. They turned it on for everyone, which, as you just said, by sending a text message and telling everyone they're turning it on. And look, I just looked through my text messages and I don't think I have a text message that I can tell from about it. Maybe it's on a different phone. I don't know. But sending people a text message that says we're turning this on, like you said, most people probably ignore the crap they get from T-Mobile. The other thing is, why couldn't you just send a text message and send somebody an email and do this other stuff and say like, hey, we launched this new service, you should turn it on, which is probably what they should have done. And then the other thing is they need to stop downgrading video from people that aren't a part of Binge On. So they have this list of partners, right? And they're all part of Binge On. And if you watch their video with Binge On turned on, then you get to say it's basically free streaming. But if YouTube, who isn't a partner, comes on and you have Binge On turned on, it downgrades that video to 480p. And it also counts against your data bucket. Like that's pretty terrible. Like YouTube is saying to you, like, we don't want you downgrading our video, so we're not going to be a part of this, and yet T-Mobile's doing it anyway, and that just hurts like user experience and has all sorts of other implications. And I think that's like the biggest problem. Like they turned it on for everyone and shouldn't have, and then 2, they're downgrading other people's stuff and shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, totally. I think the word we're looking for, not downgrading or throttling, but mobile optimizing, which
that's right.
It's a very positive spin on such a like a terrible bad thing. But I mean, it's not terrible. Like, I get the idea. The idea makes total sense. It just sucks because it doesn't involve everybody. And that's where I think all the net neutrality folks come in and say, well, this service is getting awesome service, but this service is getting crapped on, by Binge On. So I think there's just a lot of maybe misconception and confusion about what binge on maybe is. I think that's why John kind of hammers home on what binge on is. And I know you and I get it, like we know
Right.
what it is, but I think he just has to keep explaining, like, okay, yeah, it's a service that is, yeah, I mean, limiting, to 480p or whatever, but it allows you to watch more content, and it's a good
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I
sort of
mean, like
frustrating.
overall, the idea behind it,
It's
giving
good.
people an option to save on their data plan and or expand their data plan, their usage anyway. I totally get it, and it's a pretty decent idea. I'll give them that. It's just like the way they implemented it by automatically turning it on for everyone, and then they're throttling everyone else, and then John Ledger's just like standing up for everything he says, like because no one's allowed to threaten him or tell him he's doing something wrong. You know what I mean? Like he's made this career in recent years by telling everyone else they do everything wrong and that they're a terrible human. And like he's kind of turned into like slimy little sales guy right now. And when somebody like the EFF, who is doing it out of consumer protection, basically calls him out, and like for him to just attack them with like his like stupid shtick that he does, like it's just sort of uncalled for. And like it was bad enough. Like I guess I'd say it wasn't even that big of a deal, right? When it was initially like they're throttling everything, like they could have just said, "Sorry, we'll change." And instead, like he just came out and was like, "No, you don't get to tell me what to do. I'm always right." And it's like, "Oh, dude, you just look like an ass at this point." So, anyways, yeah, like a binge on in general, don't really have a problem with it. It's just like the way they've gone about it, and now Ledger's just making it worse. So I hope it goes away. But like basically he's going to come out and say like these are the changes we're doing to address all of your concerns, which he still won't mention those concerns, right? Like everything everyone's thrown at him, like why are you throttling third-party people? He won't even like talk about it. And so it is what it is. But it's free. So yeah, that's the binge on drama.
It is free. And if you like Netflix and Hulu and all that, then you're great. But I guess if you like watching YouTube videos in 4K on your mobile device on network, counting towards your data, which actually it even shouldn't, because T-Mobile users have free data going on until like March, I think it is, because of that promo he offered.
Yeah, I think
anyway.
Yeah, well, I have
it's
unlimited data on mine, and they turned binge on for me, and that's crap. Like I have unlimited data. Like, I don't, whatever.
And then he was talking about something, how unlimited customers, he had like a sentence going where it was about tethering.
It's about tethering, yeah. So unlimited customers only get so much tethering data. So you have unlimited on your phone, right? But you have a limited amount of tethering. And so I think if you have binge on turned on and then you tether like to your laptop, I'm pretty sure it then shows video on your laptop like 480p. And he's like, yeah, but it expands your like tethered video watching. And it's just like, no. Just stop, John. Just turn it off. Well, it's too late now. It's turned on for everyone.
Turn it off, John. Yeah.
So I don't know how they can make it right other than to like change some of the things we just talked about. And I just don't, he doesn't seem willing to do that. So although he released that open letter yesterday and we all just kind of crapped on him again, and like he kind of deserves it at this point. And I love how like there's like this group of T-Mobile fans that are like, you guys are all biased. Like I was reading an article on Engadget today that was basically the same one that we wrote, that The Verge wrote, that everyone else wrote about how his latest open letter was crap. And like the first comment is, Engadget, you guys are so biased against T-Mobile. And like that was what happened to us yesterday. And I think The Verge still has their comments turned off, but I'm sure that was the same one they got. It's just like, actually all of us have been pretty damn generous to T-Mobile over the recent years because like we actually like what they're doing for the industry. I don't think any of us have anything against T-Mobile. We're just calling this what it is, which is crap. So
right.
All right, let's move on from there. So at CES, now actual CES news, virtual reality VR stuff was everywhere. And so I think you and I have sat back over the last year. I don't want to say we've ignored it, but most VR stuff outside of Samsung's Gear VR isn't Android related, so we don't really care that much, right? Even though HTC is making Vive and Facebook has Oculus and they're doing their thing, it's not Android related, so we haven't cared so much. But we finally dove in at CES because it was everywhere, and so we took it all for a spin. I took the sit down Vive for a spin and sit down Oculus, and you took those two, but you also took the stand up walk around Vive for a test. So what do you think? Is VR like the real deal? Like, are you outfitting like rooms in your house? Was Vive mind blowing and a game life changing experience like everyone else has said over the last year?
Yeah, maybe just because I'm like super jaded. I feel like I've said that I'm jaded like 500 times on the DL show, but like maybe it's because I'm jaded because Vive just does not impress me all that much. Like I don't think it's there yet. Like this is the beginning, yes,
So biased.
yeah, I felt an awakening, and there is a presence that I have not felt in a long time. Like, and it is actually the beginning, and this is the beginning of something that is game changing, literally game changing. But it's just not there yet, and that's because the technology I think is still so early or young,
And
and
there's
so
no games.
and there's no games, and the games that you do play are sort of pretty weak. But so I did try Vive, and I tried the first one. It was my first time trying Vive, so it was the new model. It's the one with the front-facing camera, and they had me standing up. They've got the motion sensors attached to the walls, which is what you will need in your house if you want the same experience. Effing ridiculous. So what did I do first? I was
You were on a
underwater.
pirate ship.
I was on a sunken pirate ship, essentially, and there's a huge whale that comes by, and it was cool. It actually looked a lot better than I had anticipated. I was specifically sort of looking for pixels, or to see if I felt immersed in the experience, and it was pretty immersive. It wasn't a terrible feeling. My one problem with VR still is that when it puts you sort of in the perspective of somewhere else, and when you look down and nothing's there, sort of when you expect to see your body or your feet on the floor, that's still something that has yet to come. And I think that's something that they will work into in the future, especially now that Vive, with the front-facing camera, I'm sure, someone will cook up a way for your body to be pasted onto whatever it is you're looking at.
Well, there's got to be a way that you could just like Velcro something around your toes or like your front of your shoes or something.
Yeah. Put the little balls, the motion trigger balls on your feet or something. Looks like a Christmas elf walking around the house with a headset on. But overall it was good. After playing the pirate ship thing, it's not really playing; it's just experiencing. And then I played like a 3D office game. They're like, here, it's going to put you in a corporate environment. And I just thought that was,
go to work in VR.
Yeah, like I'm in a cubicle and I'm like eating donuts and drinking coffee or whatever and making copies all in VR. I thought that was the stupidest idea. It's not something I would want to do. And then we got to like my main point, and that is, for VR to be cool, it needs better games, and it needs the games that I want to play. Like I want to play first-person shooters. Those are the games that I enjoy. I don't want to walk around a pirate ship just looking at stuff. I want to be immersed in and killing zombies or something like that. So he put on a demo of a zombie shooting game, which is still not announced. It's something Arizona Rising, Sunrise,
like
something.
A Western zombie game.
Yeah, it was like a Western thing. The controls were all jacked up. Like, it made me look like a fool because here I am, like, you've got two controllers and the triggers, and I'm trying to reload and it's not working.
And he's like, to reboot it at least once.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's just a beta. It's just a beta. And I'm like, dude, everything's a beta.
You did have to talk him into, you were like, let me play something cool. And he actually just kind of, it was almost like he pulled some secret disc out of his pocket and was like, let's let him try it. So he did give you a chance, because otherwise you were kind of bored, I got the feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of boring because everything is happening around you, but you're not actually doing anything. Like, there's nothing interactive. Like, I'm just looking. I'm being immersed, but I'm not interacting. So with games like a first-person shooter, you need to be there and shooting stuff, and that's where one of the games that we saw demoed by NVIDIA, I didn't catch the name of that, but you're in like a subway station, you got zombies coming, you got an AK-47 going off or whatever. Like, that looks cool. Put me in there, because I mean, he's got both controllers going around and he's reloading and all this cool looking stuff. Like, that's cool to me. I don't need to pretend like I'm in my office in a cubicle or whatever. Yeah, the Portal demo, like, I have been a fan of Portal, but I've never done a whole playthrough of Portal just because I don't think I'm smart enough to play Portal. There was a Portal demo, and it was very funny. It's comedic, just like the actual Portal series, and I thought that was really well done. It looked splendid. So that's been my thing. Gear VR that I've played with plenty of times, and I always get sick. I just get this like motion sickness going on because I'm looking around. I'm not even moving. I'm just sitting there, but I can't orient myself to where, like, what I'm doing. And but Portal looked good. You're actually able to walk around, and with that front-facing camera, you're not going to hit anything. You're not going to hit the wall or anything like that. These imaginary, or not imaginary really, but these borders come up to like the wall borders. You'll walk up close to a wall, and the wall will sort of come into view. That way you won't hit it. And with that, for example, they say with the front-facing camera, you can eat, drink, and interact with people without taking the headset off. Yeah, it's sort of weird, but it was cool. Like I could see you, off in the distance, like taking pictures or whatever. And I was like, all right, this is cool. Like it helps me orient myself, my body to what is going on, not being able to see. So I thought that was great. And overall, Vive was really cool. It just needs games. And then as for Oculus Rift, I don't want to talk about it too much just because I didn't really play with Oculus Rift too much because my experience sucked. I played a game called Adrift, and you're in space and you're floating around and doing barrel rolls, and I wanted to literally vomit after playing it for like 5 minutes. I said, okay, I'm done. Like I died on purpose, dude. Just so like, yeah, I ran out of breath in the game. And I was like, okay, I died. Whoops, take the headset off. Like, I'm out of here. I had to like go get water and like breathe, just because there's something about, I don't know what it is, but it makes me sick. And
so I played that too, and I thought it was fun. Like I was barrel rolling and grabbing and doing the mission, and it's just, but that's one of those things we talked about a little bit at the show, is like VR, like the experiences too, depending on the purpose or person, or could be so different. Like I did that and I was totally fine, but it got you sick. And so like, that's one of those things, like you could invest in VR, not even knowing that like your mind or body, depending on the title, may just completely go, no. And you could spend money on all this stuff and like throw it on, and like you may get sick every single time you play it. So I played that and it was cool. I also played on Vive, the sit down, like spaceship shooting, chasing game. And it was okay. I was kind of bored with it, and the controls were way too hard for like it's playing it in like two minutes of time. The Oculus game I thought was kind of cool, but HTC screwed up our appointments, and so I didn't get to do the walking Vive full demo. But I mean, I saw you do it, and I'm fine that I didn't have to do that. So okay, well, let's talk price real quick. So Oculus during the show announced that it's going to cost $600. And everyone at the show threw a massive fit that Oculus was going to cost $600. And then today, a report out of Taiwan, Focus Taiwan, suggested that the Vive could cost $1,500. And so that's not including like the computer you're going to need, because Oculus, not only does it cost $600, but they gave a base model of specs basically for the computer you need to power it. And it's like at minimum probably $1,000. And if you probably want to play higher end games really well, you're probably going to spend like double that, or at least $1,500, I would imagine. So the cost here is kind of insane. And I think people are throwing massive fits about it being a failure, but like, did everyone actually think this stuff was going to cost like $200? I mean, people kind of did this with smartwatches. Remember when everyone's like, oh, smartwatch, $250, it's dead on arrival, it's so expensive. And it's like, yeah, but these are like new techs that people are still figuring out and whatever. And like this stuff is like high-end VR. It takes powerful computers. Like you can't just process all this information with like a cheap little smartphone chip,
It does take a lot, and so not only will the tech itself cost a lot, but then it's going to cost a lot for the people out there with computers that don't have enough power to buy a new graphics card. And I mean, really, you have to be sort of oriented with computers and graphics. So in order to really handle this stuff, I was looking at the guy who was handling the demo, and I was looking at the software he's using. It doesn't look easy. Like there's like an overlay going on because it has to display everything that the VR is showing, and then you've got your Steam VR going, and it was a lot of stuff. And yeah, I mean, the people who will be attracted to VR gaming are gamers, and they are PC people, so it makes sense for them. But anyone who's just like on the street and wants to go try out VR, they're going to get watered down. They're going to get a throttled experience or a mobile optimized experience like Cardboard, or Gear VR. And those are good for very brief points of time, especially Cardboard. And Gear VR could last you a little bit longer just because Samsung's working on a lot more content for it. But at the same time, if you don't want the watered down version, if you want to be immersed and interact and have that crazy virtual reality experience, you're going to be spending money for it until 2020 or 2025 when all the stuff is just available for pennies. So yeah, early adopters are always screwed by price. I mean, when has that ever not been a thing? So It's no big deal. I mean, for example, 4K TVs, those used to cost a lot of money, and people are like, oh, I'm never going to be able to afford this. But now you can get a 55-inch 4K Samsung for like, $800, $900.
Yeah, crazy.
So it just takes time, and markets adapt, and that's it.
Yeah. What I find a bit fascinating is like Oculus is up for pre-order right now, and HTC's Vive will be at the end of February. And do you remember when Oculus shipping? Did they say shipping date?
I don't know exact shipping.
But so we're looking at like maybe a couple months out, these things start shipping. It just seems so rough around the edges. Like I know we were going into demos and stuff, but it's like you had to have like somebody else like initiate everything you were doing, and then they just put you then in the environment. It's not like you had a handed a controller and they were like, okay, go to the start menu and click play. Like these didn't even have like that. It was basically like you had another guy over here starting everything and another guy over here putting the headset on and handing you controllers, and like it seems so rough around the edges. And so like it all has a long ways to go, and it does really expensive. And I don't think we're anywhere near like VR being in everyone's household, especially not at these prices and how far we need to go.
Yeah. And how much you have to install. I mean, you would literally have to dedicate a room, I guess, sure. If you have like a spare room or like an entertainment room, you could just install the VR stuff in there. But then you're talking about like a dedicated PC for that room, and these PCs aren't cheap.
No,
$1,000 plus for one that can even try to attempt to run it smoothly at 90 frames per second.
What did you say NVIDIA said about? They said what percentage could run any of this stuff?
They said currently 1% of the world's PCs can run VR. Like, good. Well,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's going to take a lot of upgrading, a lot of updating, a lot of NVIDIA's going to probably make a crap ton of business off this because everyone's going to have to snatch up Titan cards for their PCs, and everything's going to be great. So everyone's going to be making money except for HTC if it comes out at $1,500. So, but then again, we don't know what's coming packaged. If it is $1,500, you would hope that they throw in the 2 sensors, the 2 controllers, the headset, the cables, all that. I mean, Rift $600 is coming with an Xbox One controller because their custom controllers aren't even ready, and it's coming with 1 sensor and a remote. So we have a ways to go. That's all there is to it. It's early 2016. I'm thinking 2020 is going to be the year of VR.
Start saving that money to build your badass computer. Actually, don't build it yet, because by the time these things launch, like who knows what the minimum spec requirements are going to be. So I would just start saving money up to build that computer. Like if you're really a VR guy, like you're really looking to get into it.
Yeah.
Quite the investment. So.
It sort of reminds me when Google Glass was first announced. There was like this concept video going around of, someone who puts on glass and they're sort of immersed in this VR world. Then we actually tried Google Glass, and it was just the experience sucked. Like it was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. A complete waste of time. No offense to Google. Like Glass is cool, but it's totally worthless.
You know what? It's funny you bring that up. Like VR, I could almost see becoming what Google Glass has become. Not the like laughing, joking part of it, but like Google Glass is moving to enterprise. Like, doctors are going to wear it, or nurses, or like, it maybe in some sort of like office setting where you need your hands, but you still need to be able to interact. And so VR, I could see going this like sort of corporate route where like you need vision like around you and simulate things and scenarios and things like that, rather than this gaming thing. Cause like individual people just aren't going to be able to buy most of this stuff. It's just not like, you're not going to sell 5 million like Vive units in the next quarter. You know what I mean? Like that's just not going to happen. But I could see them like going to companies and installing the stuff in like a room where they can go demo products and whatever, and it could be good at like consumer electronics shows. If like Coca-Cola has a demo of like some new ad, you know what I mean? Like I see it used in things like that at theaters, but not necessarily as such a home product. I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, there is that story going around about the doctor. Someone just linked it in the chat, but it's the doctor who saved a baby's life
Oh yeah,
using Google Cardboard VR.
that's
And
it.
so yeah, it could be cool for doctors. Say on Vive, you got the controllers. You can like say work around like a cancer cell, and implement new information, good for information technology and all that. So the ideas, the human imagination will find a way to make VR useful. I think just right now the thing they want to try is gaming, and I think when that probably doesn't catch on as much, they'll come up with another idea, and to really bring VR to usable or useful levels. So I'm done. I'm done with VR.
Okay, no more VR
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk Motorola for a second. So Motorola wasn't necessarily at the show, but Lenovo was, the company that now owns them, and made some news in an interview with CNET. Lenovo. Oh no, it was Rick Osterloh from Motorola. Actually, we saw him walking around at some point. Where were we? We were at the Venetian, in the mall at
Venetian.
in between the Venetian and Palazzo, and he was just chilling with some other dude, but we didn't want to creep on him. Anyways, he basically said that Motorola as a name won't necessarily be used that much going forward. And so everyone kind of freaked out a little bit, like, oh my God, Motorola's dying. But in reality, it's not. Like Motorola is still going to be a company underneath Lenovo, but going forward, they're just going to use the Moto brand, which they've sort of been doing for a couple of years anyway. Nothing's really been called like the Motorola Moto X. They've just been calling it Moto X. It used to be Moto X by Motorola. I think now it's going to be Moto X by Lenovo. And there'll still be the M Batwing logo on the back. And so, again, not a lot's changing. It just sounded shocking when we first were like, oh my God, Motorola is dying. And so they're basically shrinking their product lines into, you have the Moto line, and then you have Lenovo's Vive. Is it Vibe? Vibe line.
Vibe.
Yeah. And so Vibe's like low end stuff for international markets, and then Moto they're going to use as their high end brand and expand it and things like that. That's pretty much it. But it caught everyone's eye because it was like, oh my gosh, Motorola, the company that made the first smartphone, could be going away, and so that was kind of sad for a moment there. But I think
That's
we're all
what
good.
happens when an American company gets sold to China. I mean, that's sort of what do you expect? I mean, it wasn't really a shocking thing like RIP Motorola. I think we all saw it coming. We just didn't want to believe it. But then, killing off the Moto brand doesn't make sense because it's actually, making a little bit of money with the Moto G and all that, which I think we'll be talking about in a moment.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about that. So, during CES, Lenovo's what is he? He's just like the president or something of their mobile business. I don't want to mispronounce his name, but I think Chen Zudong potentially. Anyways, he ran an interview with a Chinese outlet, and if you translate it, it translates really bad, and you almost can't even, like, I'm talking Google Translate. If you use Google Translate on the article, you can't even make out what he's saying. Like it turns Motorola into motorcycle and things like that. Like it's bad. Anyways, it started getting passed around yesterday, this interview, and he said some things like about the Moto and Vibe brands and where they're going, and at some point someone took it as Moto G and Moto E are going away and they're ditching those lines of phones forever and things like that. And you and I read this thing like, so this started making rounds last night, and we kind of sat on it, and I reached out to Motorola this morning hoping to get clarification. Because we read it a bunch and it didn't say to either of us that they were killing Moto G and E. Like there's one reference to them, and it basically says like how successful they are in Latin America. And Moto G, as we all know, is their most successful smartphone like ever. Like why would you kill that phone for a Lenovo Vibe? It just makes no sense. So anyways, Motorola has confirmed now that no, the Moto G and E are not going anywhere. But they're still just going to have two short lineups. They're going to have a Moto X, G, and E, and then they'll have a few phones from Lenovo. And it's not going to be like 15 or 20 different phones. It's going to be probably under 10 phones for a year. So, yeah, that happened. And everyone freaked out. Everyone's like, oh, Moto G and E are dead. And no, they're not. The other interesting thing is, well, they said Google Play services will probably return to China this year, which is a big deal for Google. Doesn't necessarily matter to you and I because we don't really cover news out of China, but that's a big deal. And then there was a mention of the Lenovo Vibe UI and the Moto sort of pure Android UI forming some sort of new UI in China. And I think everyone took that as Motorola was ditching the like stock Android experience, and that's not happening either from what we can tell. So it was just one of those weird things where everything just got completely translated wrong. People just jumped to all sorts of crazy conclusions. So anyways, Motorola and Lenovo, they're together as one, like fully now, shrinking the brand, less phones, but Moto X, G, and E will definitely still be around. So everyone could breathe a little bit now. Mm-hmm. All right. So actually, Motorola finally just responded to me, and they gave me the same quote they gave The Verge earlier. What else did they say? It's funny. It actually says like Chen Zudong's remarks to Chinese media have been misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
That's really funny.
You don't say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else. Brands overlap. Yeah, I mean, it's talking about, because I asked them specifically about what's up with the UI. Are you ditching the Moto UI that we know? And they didn't like specifically address it, but they did say the brands will overlap in some price points in key geographies, but with different brand identities, feature experiences, and design. So I'm imagining it's just going to stay the same. Mm-hmm. So anyways. All right, well, let's move on to the show and some of the products and stuff. How about that?
All right.
So this, outside of like VR and some of the binge on drama and TVs and stuff, which we don't talk about, there was smartwatches everywhere. Some surprises, some kind of cool, some whatever. I would say personally, the coolest watch I saw was Casio's Smart Outdoor Watch, which that's the official name, Casio Smart Outdoor Watch. The only reason I say that is it's an Android Wear device. We didn't know it was coming, and it's an actual like outdoor watch. Like it's military grade, like shock resistant, I think, and super waterproof. And it's actually made for going like outdoors and doing stuff. And it's not, most of the other Android Wear watches are like, hey, look, we're all dainty, like dressy fashion watches. And this thing's like, no.
I'm
you
a
can
beast.
beat the hell out of me. Yeah. And do whatever you want. And I just work. And it wasn't that bad. Like, I mean, it looks kind of Casio G-Shock-ish. Actually, it's a lot cleaner looking than a G-Shock, but
sure.
It's similar to that style, I guess you could say. But so we got our hands on that thing. It comes in like an orange and I think a graphite or dark charcoal or something color, but it has GPS, has a bunch of sensors and buttons, and runs Android Wear, and
it's got a compass.
It does
pressure
have a
sensor.
Sensor.
Yeah, for anyone who does a lot of like camping or traveling, but not traveling in the sense where you're on a plane, like traveling cross country, like in an RV or something, or who goes fishing, hunting, biking. It's good for anyone who likes to be outdoors and who needs a watch that can handle the abuse, because Moto 360 second gen or Huawei watch cannot handle that type of abuse. So
right.
It was cool looking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know that it's like a watch I would wear on a daily basis, but I'm just saying, like, as for like a specific group of people's needs, like we need an outdoor watch that I can take like on a camping trip in the woods as a firefighter, like in some sort of military grade something. Like they now have an Android Wear watch, so it looks kind of cool. I think I wouldn't doubt it if it was basically built off of the Moto 360 Sport, because it has like that dual display where it's like good in sunlight and indoors, I think, and then
correct,
has GPS and all that stuff. And I think it even had the flat tire, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it has the flat tire. So anyways, do we know when that's coming out? How much it costs? I don't know if we saw that.
Oh man, I know this information. I want to say
$500 April.
Yeah, yep. And it's expensive, but again, military grade shock resistance. They put this thing through the paces. And so if you need a beefy Android Wear device, there you go. Casio has answered your prayers.
They have. They've given you a beast watch. So, all right. So, in terms of other watches, so New Balance announced that at the end of the year they're going to have a watch, and it's like made for runners, by runners, and things like that. And it's Google and Intel powered, so it'll be Android Wear. They didn't even have pictures or anything of it to show, I don't think, but they said that's coming. And they're also launching like this whole new sport digital division or something like that. And so the New Balance is going to have a whole bunch of their own branded products. Basically, it sounds kind of like Nike Plus, except hopefully not as terrible as Nike Plus. Let's see. Razer had a new watch called the Naboo watch, which we didn't really do much with because it's not an Android watch. It's just like a fitness tracker watch. I don't know. What was there to know about the Naboo watch other than it probably will never launch like all of their products?
Yeah, not to be offensive, but I just thought that watch was crap. Like it kind of looked sort of like a Casio G Shock watch, and so it's got two batteries, one that powers sort of just the digital watch aspect of it, and then another one which powers the Razer Naboo side of it, which is sort of the smart thing that hooks up to your phone that you can control it. And I think it's already, one of them's already up for pre-order. There's two models. There's the Forged edition and then the standard edition. The Forged edition, I think, was up for pre-order last week, but now it's off and it was priced at $199, and then the standard is $149. And I mean, what else is there to say? The Razer Naboo did not do well. And if you look at the app, that controls that functionality on Google Play, you will be hard pressed to find anyone who thinks that app is good or that device is good or anything like that. Apparently, it's just not. It's not good, believe it or not. So I think they just need. I don't know why Razer all of a sudden got into the wearable game, and yeah, they got a lot of press. They were like, "We got best of CES." I mean, like that means anything these days.
No, everyone basically gets a best. There's
a best of CES.
It's like a totally different subject. Yeah, there's so many like news outlets that go, we have awards, and they just hand them out to everyone like it means something. And all like these companies go, look, like I think Samsung said they got like 300 awards at CES. Like, give me a break. Like it's just silly, anyways.
But yeah,
so, probably not something you want to buy.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go out and recommend it. I haven't spent much time with it. I know for the longest time last year, I was going back and forth with Razer's PR people. I was like, yo, when am I get that Razer Naboo review unit? And it never came and then it was the same thing with the Forge TV. I mean, they were trying a whole bunch of different stuff, and all of it just fell through and did not do as they had hoped. So who knows what's going on with the Razer Naboo watch? It seems like another silly idea to me. I mean, and plus it's not Android Wear, so it's nothing that would really interest me anyway. Right. It's hard to use Android Wear these days in general, just because it's always something I have to charge and all that's, it's just not as useful as I guess I would hope it would be. Because I just have my phone, I got my phone on me. I've checked my phone for years now, just for everything, including time, notifications, and all that stuff. Now they're injecting this other thing into my life that I have to check for notifications and all this stuff. I'm getting a little, like, I don't know, overwhelmed and weighed down by all of my tech stuff. So it almost might be time to go back to a flip phone for like a month and just review a flip phone and see how I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit much. Like I went to CES and didn't wear a smartwatch kind of on purpose because I was like, I don't want to be able to have to manage all of this stuff. Like it's hard enough as it is. So
some people love them though. I think there's something for everyone, which is also what's good about that Casio watch. There are options, and as the technology grows and gets older, there will be something for every use case, and some of them can be quite helpful. But I think overall, me personally, and I know you personally too, a little bit. It's just not there yet to where they look good. Like the Huawei watch looks good. Moto 360 looks good, but it's just not something I need to be wearing all the time.
Right.
What can I say?
Yeah. All right. So another watch news, Samsung announced 2 new models of the Gear S2 Classic. And the Gear S2 Classic is the one that looks more like a classic watch. One is an 18-karat rose gold finished, and the other is with platinum. And they wouldn't announce pricing. They just said they're coming in February. But the standard sort of base Gear S2 Classic costs $350. So if this thing is actually covered in 18-karat gold, it's got to. I think it's got to be like $500. I don't know. They didn't even hint at it. So they announced those. We took some pictures of them. But they were. I mean, they're just the Gear S2, which we've seen a bunch now. They just come in colors. And then Huawei also announced 2 watches that they actually said were made
For girls.
for women, yeah, or for ladies.
For the
And
ladies. That's right.
yeah, it's called the Elegant and the Jewel, and sort of slimmer bands, and one has Swarovski crystals. That's pretty much it, right? That's like the difference, right? The rest of the specs I think are the same, but they're like rose gold colored, I think, and one has Swarovski crystals.
Swarovski. Yeah, I thought it was a little sexist that they didn't offer crystals for the male models, because that's what I want. I mean, I see rappers all the time with diamonds and stuff on their watches. Why can't I have that? As a tech fan and a rap fan, hip hop fanatic, it seems sexist as hell to me. But in actuality, I think it's total BS. I think it's all BS. Like, and I don't know. I'm a hater today. Why am I hating on everything? I don't know.
It's just one of those days, I think.
But the crystal stuff, and they're expensive too.
Yeah,
of course, it's got Swarovski crystals. But yeah, and I haven't met a girl yet who's come up to me and like, "Oh, Tim, recommend a Android Wear smartwatch." And so until that's happens, yeah, I'm just gonna not tell anyone about the Huawei watches for women unless they ask, and then I say, well, Huawei makes a watch just for your kind.
Just for you. Yeah, for your kind.
It's not even smaller though, right? It's
no,
just,
I don't think so.
Yeah, they're just girly, watch faces and with crystals and different colored, like girly colored bands. Not to be offensive, they just are. They're marketed for girls. They're girly. So in a world that's trying to be completely politically correct, that just seems wrong. So
it does a little bit wrong, but whatever. I'm trying not to be offended because whatever. Like I don't see anything wrong with building like a product for a specific gender. Like I know like we're trying to be so politically correct about everything these days, but like if you're making a product and you're like, we're made this for women, like I guess I don't get offended by that, but a lot of people do.
Well, I think that's one of the. I think they don't not only want to offend the women, but they also don't want to offend the men out there with smaller wrists. Like for example, like they made a Motorola 46 millimeter Moto 360 and a 42 millimeter, and I like the 42 millimeter. Like I don't have huge wrists, and yet I think that's the one they sort of market for the ladies.
Well, at least Motorola did it right. Yeah, Motorola did 46 and 42, and then they also did like a special line of the 42s that were geared towards women, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't get offended by that stuff. But hey,
no.
It's okay if you want to get offended by something that stupid.
This is the internet. You can get offended by anything and let everyone know about it. It's to send us an email if you're offended.
Yeah. In terms of other wearables, we didn't really cover these much because we're a 2-man team and we can't do it all. But Fitbit announced the Blaze, which is like a fully blown smartwatch. We've just never really talked much about Fitbits on Droid Life, so. This thing's like it doesn't run Android or anything like that, but it has like heart rate and GPS and a color touchscreen and connects to your phones, and it could be a decent option. We may pick one up at some point and see if we can review it. And then Misfit, which seems to just be growing and putting out a new product by the day, introduced a band called the Ray, which is supposed to be more of like a fashion forward health fitness band. There's so many wearables, you can't even keep track of them all.
There was an entire building in the Sands Expo like convention area of wearables and everything that you can connect to Bluetooth. Bluetooth shoes, Bluetooth baseball bats, Bluetooth everything.
Basketball, all that stuff.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's see. So, all right, moving out of wearables, just other stuff in general. So like it was Lenovo and Google, right, announced a Project Tango consumer version. So Project Tango is like the 3D mapping tools that sort of Google was working on. I don't know why we need a consumer version. Like I guess consumer maybe just means you sell it to businesses that use it for like reasons that they would use in a business to 3D map things. Like you and I don't need a 3D mapping smartphone built by Lenovo, do we?
No, technically, no. I don't think I need it. I'd want it, but I don't need it.
So they announced that. Let's see. Huawei had a bunch of announcements. Like we finally got the gold Nexus 6P. And so Huawei, we didn't talk a ton about this, but Huawei basically had like the only press event we needed to go to, and we did go to it. And they announced the Mate 8, which I think they had actually previously announced, but it was like super official at CES. The Mate 8, the 8X, I think it was, and the 5X, which is actually an Honor phone, which is like an E brand or something of Huawei. And then a MediaPad M2 10 tablet, which is actually a pretty nice tablet. We did play with that. And then the gold Nexus 6P. And then they handed out like free phones to everyone at this event. It was kind of crazy. There was a line for the Mate 8 and one for the gold Nexus 6P. And they were just seriously, Huawei clearly just is printing cash at this point. They were just handing out free everything. So yeah, Huawei had a bunch of stuff to announce. I mentioned earlier, LED TV has the first Snapdragon 820 phone. That's a phone that's hanging out in China. It will probably never see it, but it is technically the first Snapdragon 820 phone. So there's something. Let's see. Google announced new speaker sort of cast audio partners and TV partners that all should be joining soon. I'm trying to think who some of those new ones were. So for Android TV, you've already been able to buy TVs from Sony, Sharp, and Philips, I believe, but later this year, you'll see like RCA, Hisense, and Bang & Olufsen apparently makes TVs. I didn't know that. As far as cast audio speaker stuff, Harman Kardon, Onkyo, Philips, Pioneer will join Sony and LG. There's others and stuff. So that's happening. Let's see. We stopped by Jaybird's booth because they announced two new sport sort of Bluetooth headphones, the Freedom and X3. So I'm personally just a big fan of Jaybird, and we've talked about them a little bit on the site, so we did stop by. So X3, even though they just announced the X2 not that long ago, they have the new X3, but then their flagship is the Freedom, which are smaller, and they have sort of like a battery. They have a battery pack like built into their volume control, which is in the cord. And they're just smaller. It should have a better fit in your ears. I did use the Freedoms. It sounded great, but Jaybird's sort of Bluetooth buds have always sounded pretty good. So those are available in Q2 and Q3, so you can't buy them now. They're just kind of special because you can program whatever sound profile you want in them, which is kind of cool. Let's see, Under Armour. So Under Armour, in partnership with HTC, announced the UA Health Box, which is a combination of a fitness tracker, a heart rate monitor, and a Wi-Fi scale. And so basically this is an Under Armour product that they've sort of worked with HTC to help design, I believe. But it's basically an Under Armour product is how I sort of took it. It is up for pre-order now and will be available later this month. And it's $400. Yeah, $400. You get all that stuff. I think they will eventually sell it all individually, but as of right now, they're selling it as the health box, and it's $400. We stopped by their booth and saw Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps is doing an interview, and we didn't feel bad for him at all. But he apparently worked out that day and flew around the country and was going to have to work out some more while getting paid to sit on stage with Under Armour. He was huffing and puffing, and we were like, yep, dude, we feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Tough life. So yeah, they announced that. And if you're a fitness guy and you like Under Armour, there is a box of stuff for you. Let's see. Asus re-announced the Zenfone Zoom, which is basically a phone with a full-on camera built into the back. And they announced this last year at CES, and then they brought it back this year, but they're actually going to sell it now in February for $400. Let's see. Ford finally gave in and is going to allow Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. But forever, Ford's been like saying, no, our solution's better or whatever. And actually, Toyota is still doing that, even though they're going to use Ford's service, I believe. But anyway, so new Fords in 2016, 17 will have Android Auto. And then LG didn't really announce anything other than a couple of mid-range phones. The K10 and K7. Yeah. I think they're going to T-Mobile or something. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're like mid-range phones that our readers don't really care about. Yeah. So that was pretty much all the stuff we covered. We walked around the floor a lot. We just like browsing around and doing stuff. Like when we went, actually, if you go to CES and you go to the wearables section, there's actually cool stuff everywhere to just play with. Like Tim found a couple of like basically batting simulator things and was like swinging stuff. We saw like a basketball with like a Bluetooth thing from, I think it's from Wilson, that you could play with. Well, we didn't play with it, but there was huge shooting and stuff. There's like wearable stuff everywhere. Like TNT had their NBA broadcast set up there. It was like a gaming tournament. Tim saw some famous gamer. I have no idea who the guy is, but he saw that guy and he tweeted back at him.
Yeah.
What else? There was stuff everywhere. There was, like I said, there was hoverboards. We saw a bunch of
Who didn't we see? So we saw
stuff.
Mark Cuban hanging out in the Cosmopolitan. The gamer Kellen is referring to is Optic Nade Shot or Matt. What up, Nade Shot? And let's see what else. We saw someone else.
We saw Penn from Penn and Teller.
That's right. Oh yeah, he was just walking by like towards Pepcom in the Mirage.
Saw him. Like I said, saw the TNT crew. So we saw Ernie Johnson.
Ernie.
We didn't run into Shaq, but I think I saw the booth he was supposed to be at.
That would have been great.
Who else did we see? Well, we went to an iHeartRadio party and Chris Brown performed. There's stuff everywhere. Yeah. What else did we see? Who else did we see? I feel like we ran into a bunch of people, but obviously we didn't like go up and go, hey, can I take a picture with you?
It was a bit. We were in a cab that Larry Page had been in moments before, apparently, according to our cab driver.
According to the cab driver, she had just given Larry Page a ride. Yep.
Yeah. It was very odd. Scott Croyle from Next Bit. I don't. He's famous to me, at least, just because I follow him on Twitter. I don't follow many people on Twitter, but he's one of them.
So famous.
And, so famous. I think that's about. I mean, that's really it. Like Tag Heuer had a party, and the waitress lady, the attendant was passing around champagne, but I thought maybe it was like just like a sparkling white. And I was like, oh, what's this? And she's like, oh, it's just champagne. I said, okay. And I go to reach it. She's like, it's Dom Perignon. And I said, oh, well, don't mind if I do. So I've actually never drank Dom before, but it was good. It was okay. It was very smooth. And then they kept coming around and filling up the bottles. And there's like 150 people in here.
It was kind of crazy, actually. So Tag Heuer invited us to a Tag Heuer Connected event because we have the watch and we've done a review and stuff like that. So they invited us to this event where they were going to announce these partnerships or collaborations with their ambassadors like Tom Brady and Jeremy Lin and so we're at this thing, and it's like in this tiny little cafe in the Venetian, and you can't even move in the place. And yeah, Tim, they're walking around, and we're not talking just like a little flute of champagne. We're talking like full wine glass size full of Dom. And like I heard like at least half the people around us going, are they really serving Dom in like giant wine glasses? And then you just saw the waiters and waitresses walking around with bottles of open Dom, just topping everyone off. It was kind of nuts. So if you ever have a chance to go to a Tag Heuer party, expect them to treat you well. It was kind of crazy.
No cheese, though. I was kind of bummed about that. And I need a pairing for my Dom. Why do I not have a fine Swiss cheese here?
Jean-Claude Beaver was not in attendance.
It was not, which was actually sort of saddening. Mm-hmm. Would have been nice to have him there.
Yeah. So we did that. We didn't actually go to a lot of parties this year. So CES is one of those things like a lot of the journos talk about after CES. There's like all these parties, and like Weezer was playing at CNET, and like everyone, like I think Elton John played for JBL or something. I don't know. We started skipping some of these because we don't like going out and just getting hammered every night and then trying to work the next day. It's not fun. We did that years ago when we were amateurs at this, and it's just not that much fun. So I don't know. We spend a lot of our time like going to restaurants and like just chilling, things like that. But we did go to iHeartRadio, which was a good time.
Chris Brown.
Chris
Breezy, looking a little pudgy. Or maybe not pudgy, just not as toned as he used to be.
Not that fit, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's just like, maybe the camera adds like 10 pounds of muscle straight in your abs and your, all that. But, yeah. He seemed cool. He was actually like trying to sing and stuff, which I thought was cool. A lot of it was backing tracks, but some of it was cool. He did not play his hits. Like, he didn't play, that one song with Busta Rhymes or whatever. Of course, I'm a huge hip hop fan, yet I can't name a single Chris Brown song right now. Look at me now.
No one can name a Chris Brown song.
That song right there, and then you do the Carlton to it. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't play like "She Ain't You" anything like that. So that's the song
Mhm.
I was hoping, because that's a good track right there. But
Yeah. So,
anyway,
we did that. Let's see. We didn't gamble much. I gave up on gambling at CES after last year when Mirage just destroyed me. We did our yearly CES dinner. If you guys have been following our CES coverage for a long time, we always like kind of go all out on one dinner, sort of like to reward ourselves before we leave. And we went to Strip House, which is steakhouse in Planet Hollywood. They have locations in like New York too. Had a fantastic dinner. Would recommend it if you need a steak. Great time there.
let me just pro tip for anyone that does eat at Strip House: do not leave your prescription glasses there, or you will be in the seventh layer of hell. I left my glasses there after dinner. We had left, and by the time we left, they had already closed. So I'm calling, nothing. I try and call Planet Hollywood Lost and Found. No. Finally, today, we ate there on Thursday night, and finally, I'm getting, they sent my glasses back out today after me calling like almost 10 times for the Strip House to bring them to the Lost and Found at Planet Hollywood. And there's a serious lack of communication between employees, managers, and Lost and Found management at Planet Hollywood. I don't know what the deal is, man.
Mhm.
Anyway, just don't do it. Just don't leave your glasses there. But the food is good. Pro tip.
Yep. And that was pretty much it. It was it wasn't like uneventful. We just kind of went CS, did our thing, had a little bit of news, had a little bit of fun. Although one weird thing on the plane ride home, I almost hope this guy's like somehow a Droid Life reader and listening, but this dude like gets on the plane sort of late, and he sits in the middle seat in between me and some other lady who was sitting in the window, and just sits down and pulls out this like toiletry bag and just whips out like 3 or 4 stacks of hundreds and proceeds to then just count them in front of everyone like this. I mean, he's like up in the air just counting, and everyone's still boarding the plane looking at this guy like, what are you doing? We're probably talking, I mean, it had to be like $20,000, $15,000, $20,000.
Thousands of dollars, definitely.
It was the weirdest
easily
thing
though.
ever.
I mean, they're fat rolls
Just
of
giant
hundies.
stacks. It was the most awkward. I'm sitting next to the guy trying not to just look over like, what are you doing with all this cash, bro? But and it's just what some people do. Like you said, he was a peacock.
He was a peacock, just showing off. He had
Showing
some
off.
Ed Hardy jeans on, I think, and just doing his thing. Not that Ed
Yeah,
Hardy's, a dead brand or anything like that, but
it is.
I was sitting across the aisle from Kellen, and Kellen like hits me up on Hangouts because we hadn't taken off yet. And he's like, look at this dude next to me counting all his cash. And I like look over and I'm like, holy hell, that's like a big stack of money. Dude. I was like, maybe he's a poker player or something and had like a good weekend. And then I heard him say that he had still lost money or something. I was like, oh my God.
So who knows how much he went blue in Vegas? He's like, honey, I'm going to CES. I'm gonna empty the bank account to go gamble as well. Comes back like 20 grand shy. Like, whoa. It was so awkward.
Yeah.
Random things you see.
Vegas is crazy.
Yeah, Vegas is crazy. So anything else? Anything else we're missing? I feel like that's pretty much all we did.
I don't think there's anything else we missed. We covered everything pretty good.
Yeah, nothing really mind-blowing, but it's CES. So we have MWC obviously coming up in a little over a month in Barcelona, which will be hopefully Galaxy S7, S7 Edge. I see LG is now sending out invites to their event at it as we're filming this. So
Always.
LG has something to show. It would be odd if they had like the G Vive ready, because the the G line's always been like May-ish, I feel like April, May, like after MWC, but maybe they moved it up this year because going after Samsung maybe hasn't been such a successful thing for them. So their invite says play begins, and it doesn't show like a G or a 5 or anything. So like if they're trying to hint there, they're not. I mean, have you seen this thing yet? Do you see a 5 or anything, or a G? There's no G, there's no 5. So usually
I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, usually LG is they send they hint at stuff like crazy. So
on the top of the box, the light green diamonds, there's 5 of those and 5.5 of the dark green diamonds. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like all the way across each, there's basically five. Yeah,
Maybe one,
maybe
two.
that's a sign of five. We're looking into this really deeply now.
Yeah. Well, you got me going.
Yeah. So that'll happen. And yeah, so that's when we'll see lots of news. Like HTC, I would imagine, has the one M10 or whatever their next flagship is. So that's like the actual fun Android stuff is coming in soon, in just over a month. So yeah. Otherwise, CES is over. Peace out, CES. Like we'll see you again next year, obviously, and probably have even less news, but it is what it is, part of the deal. All right. Anything else then? Cut off the CES special.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's it. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next year
Yeah,
at
so we'll see
CES
you. Well,
2017.
we'll probably see you soon with episode 100. We're probably going to do a big
Yes.
giveaway or something, episode 100 of the DL show. I don't know
Yeah,
if it'll
feel
be this Friday. There's not like a ton of news going on this week, but it could
let
be
us
this
know on
Friday.
Twitter. You know, if there's something that you really want for Christmas, a late belated Christmas present from us, let us know on Twitter what you want. If you want a VR headset or something, just let us know, and we may oblige you. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially. So yes, stay tuned for that. We'll have a giveaway or something to celebrate episode 100. So for now, though, that's it. Yeah, we're out of here. Droid Life CES Special 2016. Peace.
Peace.